What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. The Melanated Convo podcast is a podcast where we talk to interesting individuals from our community. We have great conversations with them about life. We have conversations about relationships, racism, whatever seems to be going on. Also on the show, we make a point to discuss important news topics that take place in our community. Now, it can be with a business ownership situation or just someone that can be inspirational to all of us. So I try to, find news stories that I think would be interesting for the family. And on today's show, I have a really special guest, a brother that I've been knowing for a really long time here in the city of Sacramento, where I'm from. He's a community organizer, he's a community activist, and just an all-around deep thinker. So I love to have him on the show today, my brother Keon Johnson. We're going to get to the interview with him here in a minute. Now, for the news stories that I want to bring everybody up on here. First news story comes from my boy Jeezy. Young Jeezy he used to be, but Jeezy, the hip-hop artist, many people are aware of him. I'm an extremely huge hip-hop fan, so I love to see all my brothers doing positive things in the community. Young Jeezy teamed up with a guy named Freddie Figures, who was another young black man who founded Figures Communication. Now, Jeezy and Figures together will be creating a cell phone that'll be a less expensive alternative to some of the cell phone providers we have now, but they plan on still giving you the same top-notch, state-of-the-art technology when doing so. So when they launch the cell phone, the retail value price for the phone, I think, is like $449. They'll have earbuds as well. That's like $49. Looking at the specs of the phone as far as the screen size, megapixel for the camera, it looks like it's pretty comparable to a lot of the shit that we buy anyway. So if anybody is looking for a cell phone provider, you're not sure where to go, support a black business, you can go to figures.com to see if the service is available in your area. That's figures.com. That's spelled FIGGERS.com. Support them brothers. Like I said, we using Verizon and Sprint and all these other companies. If it fits you, use them brothers. Now, the next and last news story. We all know in our society, a lot of people deal with erectile dysfunction. Women deal with a version of that as well. So for our next news story, I wanted to talk about a brother named J.R. Scroggins. Mr. Scroggins is a black man. He's the CEO of a company called Alpha RX Plus that he started in 2012 to help black men with erectile dysfunction. So this is a black company, been doing this thing since 2012. His company made the news recently because not only does he have the Alpha RX Plus for women, for men, he also has a new product called Eve's Alpha 8, which is designed to help women who may have like a hormonal imbalance that basically affects menstrual intimacy. He says the Eve's Alpha 8 will help boost libido, improve natural lubrication, and reduce vaginal dryness and alleviate pain. So all my brothers and sisters out there, if y'all having a problem getting it on in the bedroom, holla at my boy J.R. Scroggins. If you were interested in the Alpha RX Plus, you can go to live-natural-7.com. That's where the men's products is. That's live-natural-7.com. If you're a woman and you're interested in the women's products, you can go to Eves, that's EVES Alpha, ALPHA8, the number 8.com. So we know just in our society in general, if you go to a liquor store, you can't miss it. They always selling us some shit for erectile dysfunction or to get that thing right. Go through a brother if you have those kind of issues. Holler at the brother J.R. Scroggins. He can get everything going for you. Now, time for the interview. Like I was saying, the brother that I'm interviewing today, It's really special to me because we've been living in the city together for a really long time. I just respect his vision. I respect the way he thinks about the world that we live in, how he stands on his principles. And me being a black man who more recently in my life became aware of the injustices that we face, and understanding I had a place in it and there was something I needed to do. This is a brother who has had this type of mentality for a real long time now. So that was really a big inspiration for me when I look at all the things I want to do with my community. And like I said, he's a community activist, been doing this thing for a long time out here in the Sacramento area. How you doing today, Keon?
Peace, King. I'm well, and yourself?
Good, brother. Yes. Good to see you, man.
Thank you. Likewise, it's good to be seen, like we say. Good to be seen and not viewed. you know that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. So like I was telling you, man, we're just going to have a good conversation today about your take on the community activism, how you came up a little bit. I know there's been a lot of things going on here in the Sacramento area as far as police, everywhere really, but it has definitely taken place in our city. So we've had a front row seat to a lot of this fuckery lately. So I want to talk to you about some of that too. Yep. So let's get everything started, brother. So talk to everybody about how you grew up, meaning the dynamics of your house as a kid.
Right on. Before I do that, too, I just want to tell you thank you. With all my being, I'm humbled by your intro. And, we've been rocking for years, but, that was just humbling to hear that from my brother. And I think that's something we need to be able to do more as men. You know what I mean? Just how to love each other. We get into all of that, but I love you, bro, and thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. How do we my environment growing up? Ooh, crazy. My initial coming into the planet, my early years in New York, before we came to California, was off. It was off the charts. Born in Brooklyn, New York, 79. Young mother, young father. We Jamaican, culturally. Those things. So if you know New York in the 80s, crack had just hit. We had Jamaican posses and, all this other type of stuff. My family was in the mix. That kind of led us out west. You know what I mean? It was time to. It was our exodus. You know what I mean? Life was crazy. Drugs, guns, criminal activity, high profile criminal activity. Young mother. Mom was always on point. Mom was kind of like the glue. You know what I mean? That kept her family straight. She was a young mother, but she knew. The way she came up, she knew what she wanted for her family. But it just so happens that our families, on my father's side, and through that, we was in a lot of things that I'm not, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. So it was hectic, but it was a lot of love. I remember, even now, we look back, me and my siblings talk, we look back and those were some the most dangerous environments and places to be in, but it was so much fun. One thing we talk about, how much fun it was and how much love we had amongst ourselves, and even in our little section, our block. Like I said, we were Jamaican, so even the people on the block, they knew each other before they came to America. You know what I mean? So that whole dynamic of community, we came up in community.
Now, when you were young, not to cut you off, when you were younger, your mom and dad were still together?
They were still together.
Okay.
They were still together. It wasn't they was together. Maybe when they even shouldn't have been.
Okay.
When she should have been 2 fingers gone. My mom endured a lot. We watched her go through a lot. In turn, we went through a lot. A lot of, things are being labeled now, what you would call traumatizing and all this other shit. I mean, we've been through all of that shit, you know what I mean? Some of the scariest shit, you know what I mean? But, yeah, we've been through a lot. And I think that's a lot of that fabric goes into who we are now in terms of how we navigate space, people, communities, you know what I mean? Brooklyn in the 80s was maddening, but it was the dopest shit. It was the dopest shit. It was the dopest shit. I look back with the fondest of memories.
Now,
fondest.
A question: how? Because you mentioned your mom's presence and how she held stuff down. Talk to me about your dad a little bit. How influential was he in that time? Like, what was your relationship like with him?
Yeah, so that was where all the bullshit came in. You know, I used to say, you know, just coming up and the animosity and all this shit. You know what I mean? I used to be like, you know, Mom just like God in our life, and Pops just like the opposite. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff we were supposed to came through. You know, the shit that black men get into, go through, and all of that. So Pops was there. He wasn't the best example. My Pops was always there. My Pops is a funny ass. Like, a lot of our humor and stuff we get from him. A lot of our intelligence and street smarts we get directly from him. You know what I mean? My mom was more naive, and, you know, to how we ended up in a lot of spaces. My Pops was sharp, stern, you know, iron fists, you know, as we would say now, like, I guess the Jamaican culture is very, now you say, like, I didn't know, misogynistic type shit, you know what I mean? So we got a lot of man shit from Pop. Some shit was very unnecessary, but he was always there. You know, even when Mom did take her breaks and split and everything, we never not knew who Daddy was or where he was and shit like that.
Okay.
So he was there, you know, he's there to this day, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, still have a relationship with him now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And even as a man now, I learned it's everybody's first time here for the last time. Nobody got to do it before. So kind of what you get is what you get. If people, you know, people have, you can grow, you go through shit. You'd be surprised if you have a conversation with your parents or your grandparents, the shit that they went through, like talk to them about their life, you know what I mean? Certain shit in my manhood I come to understand, forgive to be forgiven, you know, kind of thing. So Mom was there, Pops was there, and we had a hell of a ride in between all the shit, the good, the bad, the up, the down, the loops, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like most families.
Yeah, like most families.
Yeah, that's how that shit goes. Now, another question I wanted to ask you, like I was saying, like we were talking about off air, looking at your brothers and like how grounded you guys seem just for a long time, even before I even knew why. It just seemed like y'all was grounded in something. So that consciousness or that awareness, explain to me where that came from.
How can I mix that? So, like I said, we went through a lot. We've been through a lot. So on the worldly end, we've seen a lot of shit together, from babies into adulthood. Understanding how that works and the need for, you know, I guess naturally how we function as brothers. On the flip side, my mom's and her side, there's a lot of God, you know what I mean? It was a lot of spirituality. I remember when we was young, we used to fall asleep. Mom used to have Bible studies with us like a mug, you know what I mean? It's sort of spirit of love, God, you know what I mean? Those kind of things kind of mold into us. Again, we come from a culture. So I even, let me segue. So even when I came to California and we had like Bloods and Crips, I didn't know what that shit was, and, you know, black people here, it was very different for me. Like, you know what I mean? Because we come from actual preserved culture. You know what I mean? Like, you know, black Americans for the most part be like, we black. You know what I mean? But we had traditions, we had culture, we had, you know what I mean? So all those things were already in our mix to a certain extent. I mean, as much as my dad ain't with, you know what I mean, he's just coming to, in old age, coming into a level of consciousness, if you will. When I was young, only thing my dad used to always say, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. I didn't know nothing about Marcus Garvey, you know, because he's a proud Jamaican, nigga, Marcus Garvey. And it wasn't until I hit my early teens that I kind of brought that I would say that awareness, culture, the identity of blackness into my family. You know what I mean? That wasn't something that was under our roof. Now my uncles, my mom's brothers, they was on some shit. I would call them like my first teachers that gave me the lane. You know what I mean? I started learning a lot through my uncles, and I think that's, you know, that and me being the older brother, you know how that go. Your younger brothers kind of pick up a little bit of what you do, what you're into. that's where all that come in at. So
that's extremely interesting. That's why I asked the question. So you're saying, like, your pops, you explaining to me who he was, but he wasn't necessarily a person that was aware of things. Damn.
My dad's in more ways than one, he's like my dad's an ignorant ass motherfucker, like real shit. No sir. What we got from him is the world, the street smarts, the harsh shit. You know what I mean? Punishment and whoopings and other shit. You know what I mean? We got all of that. You know what I mean? Our sense of survival and skill and know how to navigate. You know what I mean? We got that from him. I think we got love and bond and trust and all from mom. And everything else was from the. It was one or that in my household. It was this or that. It was extreme left and extreme right with love and all that. But no, the ideas of blackness, cultural, all that was like my thing. That was the thing that's been on me since I was young. And then I got fed from my uncles.
Okay, so you say that was on you from you was young, from when you were young. Why do you think that is? Do you think it was just something naturally inside you that felt like some shit wasn't right?
Not even so much. It started on a spiritual end. Right, it's that all of that because it all ties in when you see the bigger picture. But that'd be a different conversation. But I'm gonna kind of give you a synopsis. It starts off with spirituality for me. You know what I mean? My relationship with the Creator, God, and so on and so forth. I remember one time when I was young, I just God, tell me the truth. I want to know the truth of the matters. You know what I mean? Good, bad, and difference. I want to know the truth of shit. And searching for truth, higher truth, it brings you into consciousness. And your truth and the truth of the planet where you at and the truth of your identity and all those things. So it all started at the source for me, which is the Creator.
Got it. All right. Now, so looking at a lot of the stuff that you do here in our city, like when I'm on Facebook or on the internet, when I'm just looking at what's going on as far as the community of people that's aware of what we need as black folks, that's melanated people, I always see you in the mix of something, like just like always. Look like you spend a lot of your time doing, you know what I'm saying, which is a great thing. So talk to me about why was it important for you to not, because you can be a person who think and do knowledge on history, know who you are, and don't do shit. So what made you go from knowing who you were to actually activating that and doing something?
The difference between wisdom and knowledge is wisdom is knowledge in action. You know what I mean? It's being wise about what you know. I always say the same thing. It's like knowledge is no good unless you sharing it, passing it, giving it away for free. Right? Because anything that is good, which is good for me, I should want for you, and I shouldn't put a penny on it if I don't have to, if I can't. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be. That moved me into action. The fact that it's like money. Like we could be in this room right now and we could be piled to the ceiling with $100 bills, the whole room. What good is it if you're not spending it, right? It's supposed to be, and it's the same thing with knowledge and information. You got to act on it. You got to move on it in any capacity that you can. My journey started in a group home, working with black boys. Black-owned group home, working with black boys. And then other people came through, other races, but for the most part, we housed young black males. So my I would say, me actually activating that outside of my group and my homies. You know, we be smoking this shit, and I always be the one talking about nigga this shit. You know what I mean? But my first piece of moving into that action was working in a group home. To this day, I still got a dynamic, and this was over 10 years ago. I got one, you know, he's in the pen, he's doing 12 years, he called me, he Facebooked me, you know, my number is not changing for those reasons. I gotta keep contact with those. My little nigga called me from the pen still. One of my little dudes, he's a father now, 3 children, got twins. Other dude, I ended up working with one of them, as the universe would have it, you know what I mean, doing community work. And one of my boys, you know, we had a little site together. I'm like, ain't this some shit? You my co-worker? I used to take care of your ass. So it started in the group home, and it grew out of that.
Now, I see something I noticed is a lot of the times you're real. What made you be so supportive? And it seems like you're always putting somebody else out there. Like you could be the kind of person that said, "Nah, I'm about to get this popping. I'm not about to share your event when I'm thinking about doing something like that." So what made you be so selfless in the movement?
I think what you want for yourself, you want for others. You know what I mean? If in your higher frequency, I'm not saying I don't be dipping in and out of frequencies,
of course.
But in my higher frequency, what I want for myself, I want for others, and it ain't never nothing to shed the light on others and help and push. Part of my ideology is servitude, right? That's where the kingship come from. You hear me say peace, king, which is more popular now, but you know that's
You've always been saying that,
right? The idea and the concept of kingship, as I define it as my family, my brother, it's actually servitude, right? It's not about being served. The king might have a whole village serving him, but it's the king's responsibility to serve the whole entire village, right? He's the lead servant. He's actually supposed to be showing motherfuckers how to serve. When you look at it through the proper, you know what I mean? So you don't wear the crown, you bear the crown. That's another thing. People want to floss and think you're the king. Nah, nigga, that's a burden. You know what I mean? And it's rightful. So, it started, me being selfless, it started in outside of my own personality. You know what I mean? People say Aries is selfish, and we might be to some extent, but I'm a very selfless person. That's part of my personality. I'm probably selfish in the areas where I am, but I'm really not about me. And I think it's been to my detriment, actually. You know what I mean? I think in more ways than one. Coming into manhood now, and I'm a family man. I got children. There's certain things that I want and am pursuing that I might have seen peers that we went to school, whatever kind of a certain level. You know what I mean? I've been so selfless, you know, to a detriment to a certain extent, when we're not actually kind of putting down my own. But again, it ain't nothing to put somebody else on. You know what I mean? I'm not a limelight kind of person. You know what I mean? So it's nothing to show love. Love is the main ingredient.
Got it.
The foundation.
It should be. All right, now, so a couple years ago, I think it's been a couple years now, a year and a half maybe, there was we here in Sacramento, both of us live here in Sacramento, California. We had the Stephan Clark killing, and just being people that are aware of what goes on in our community, this definitely wasn't the first time. But talk to me about experiencing something like that in your city, and the reaction from yourself and the reaction from the people in our city. Look back on that time and just tell me, what's your feelings about it now?
When that happened, I was in Florida. I seen it like everybody else on the news. I wasn't even here. I think my flight back was probably the next day, and I landed, and literally like from the plane, stuff in the crib, and jumped right into 2 feet, not knowing. I didn't know that. So I took it very personal in more ways than one. That not only did it happen in our city, in his backyard where he's supposed to be safe, but it literally happened in our backyard.
Literally.
Right? Yeah. The dynamic, the duality of that in his backyard, right here in our backyard. Let's go back to you and I relationship, which probably spent at least 25 years now. Come out of high school, between, you know, early high school, junior high, connections, the people we know. You know what I mean? That's a long time. But when we first met each other, if you remember, I lived on 29th Street. That's where we, you know what I mean? So, again, not only did it happen in our backyard, it literally happened at your doorstep. I took it very personal that it happened, because we watch it, we opinionated, we see it on over and over. Mike Brown, all these things, Trayvon Martin leading up. And people never think it could happen in our city. As long as it's police, that shit could happen anywhere. Surprising that it happened not only again in our city, but in our section, on my block. The house that it took place in, rest in peace, Fella. Fella was my big homie, you know what I mean? I knew the family. I didn't know the younger Clarks. You know how we'd be disconnected in generations. Big Tommy still over there. Big Tommy helped raise us, you know what I mean? He's a community, when he had all of his limbs and he was functioning, you know what I mean? He acted as a community parent. Like, he knew all of us in there would be kicking it. So it happened to my homeboy, rest in peace, his family. I took it extra personal, not knowing when I got back to Sacramento that's exactly where it was. I plugged in with work. I went to go pay respect, and I see my boss and co-workers there at the feet of the family. When I say at the feet of the family, they were there aiding the Clark family, working with them, supplements, resource, everything. They were the immediate go-to, so that was my boss. So you see how the plug-in automatically happened? It's not something that, and I still would have responded, but I didn't. I was called, this was the role. Looking at it now, I'm completely satisfied with, how we kicked up dust on their ass. I'm gonna fuck the police from the heart forever, for the most part. I can be diplomatic as we need to in certain situations, but I'd rather us govern ourselves. I know their history, how they started. They mean us know you might have good individuals. It's like you're not gonna trust a whole bunch of snakes because there's one that don't bite in there. Stand back. The way that whole thing went down, I was satisfied at our reaction, and even the efforts of Black Lives Matter and how they, that movement actually brought a lot of shit to the forefront and was a stronghold in it. Shutting down the arena and all that shit, which a lot of people, the freeway move was the shit. What a lot of people don't know was the arena, the idea to move to the arena, that was Big Cam. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that was. Bro said, okay, we done here. It's a game. And we went there. The idea to shut that shit down, that was all me. That the idea that nobody's getting in, that was that. And it was a bird whispered in my ear. There's a bird whispered in my ear. It's like, bruh, whoop. I'm like, hell yeah. And it was like, lock arms. And that's when we shut the arena down. But that was actually my call. Okay. Yeah. That was my call with an idea from a bird that landed on my shoulder. She stood back. And it was like, this is, I'm like, yep. So it was Cam said that let's get off the freeway now after we proved our point. The arena's right there. Cam said we going there, and we was protesting there. You know what I mean? Doing the same thing, but we wasn't shutting shit down. And the bird landed on my shoulder and said, hey, bruh. I'm like, right on, sis. Shut this bitch down. And that's what. So I was proud of all of that. I'm glad that we dented their money. I'm glad that we put a lot of shit to halt. We're going to disturb the peace. The things that follow from that, I'm so proud of Stevante and what he's doing in his brother's name right now. How he's holding up legacy. How he pulled himself around. That's little bruh. I'm very proud of him and just the movements that he's doing, and that, So I think whatever good, and I hate to say good, can come of that. We working on it right now.
Got it. So because it looks like that situation was real tough for his family, of course, and everybody was critical of his brother, Stephan Clark. I have to say, there was a time where I was critical of him, not knowing some of the inner workings and how things was going on. Yeah. But ultimately, I think we did the best we could with because this is what I struggle with too. And then we'll go on to the next question whenever. But this is what I struggle with too. It's difficult for me to participate in a march for police violence. Now, the Montgomery bus boycott, I think, was extremely powerful because they affected the money. When y'all went to Golden One, that was like brilliant to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I struggle with, because I think, okay, to me, marching for like breast cancer awareness, sickle cell, some shit like that, like a disease that people need to know about so they don't catch the disease or whatever. To me, that makes sense to me. But when you out there saying, don't hit us no more, don't do something to us no more, that becomes problematic for me. But I struggle with that though, because I look on the TV and I see a brother marching. I gotta say, well, it's a brother that's sitting at home right now and ain't doing shit. So is he better or worse than the dude that's marching? So sometimes I feel like, just activate your shit, and where it leads you, just follow that, because doing nothing is even worse than all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. See, even with that, and I'll say even like you said, some of the good that came out of it, the bill AB 392 passing, police. You know what I mean? So some things out of that, the marching shit, and I kind of it gets played out after a while. In most instances, I'm not for that neither. My thing, part of the beautiful shit that for me, And therapeutic shit for me, that was nose to nose with pigs. Fuck you, pig. The fuck you gonna do, pig? Fuck you, devil. I walked down the whole line, face to face, point. You fucking devil. Like you got to get a lot of shit off your chest. And the most beautiful one for me was the night that we marched down 29th. I'm looking like, nigga, I grew up. There go my house. There go my other house. We lived in 3 houses right there before, you know what I mean? And we down the block. And by the time we got to Florida and the face-off and the standoff, and then by the end of the night, watching them back down, and it was a symbolic victory, but we cheered like we just got emancipated. When we watched the whole line, it was like, I can't even count the number of pigs it was out there. And we was holding the line, and I remember the last thing I said, we ain't leaving till you go home. We ain't leaving till you go home. We ain't leaving, right down the line. And all of a sudden, they end up getting a call, and to watch them back down, watch their cars reverse down the streets, and watch them turn around and watch them leave, and the people, yeah, nigga, we in this motherfucker, yeah, you know what I mean? It was a beautiful fucking feeling. It was a beautiful feeling. They just had to know where we was at, whether it was gonna give us some progress and make a budge and make space or not. I think just to do that, sometimes, like the elders used to say, like marching is praying with your feet. In a lot of instances, I be very critical of shit too. You know what I mean? But then sometimes, like, you know, where's my people at? You know what I mean? I feel like fucking for real, so let me get out there and, you know what I mean? Fuck you, pig. Like, and a lot of the shit's out front line just to be up in the pig shit.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, if you think about it on a deeper level, sometimes somebody in your family may want to do some shit that you don't want to do. But you got to do it with them. Then after, you be like, why you haven't done it? But you go with them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's kind of on the same thing. Yeah, I feel you, bro. And just to hear how you talk about marching and it gave me perspective. You know what I'm saying? To see why you did it. You know what I'm saying?
Even the last one, bro. 84 of us got arrested. I was part of that little 84 arrest. I wasn't even there. Like I said, I'll be going back and forth with my ideals, and even in a lot of instances, that march right there, I wasn't necessarily a part of the march. I was like, why the fuck we out here again? You know what I mean? I did appreciate the fact that we was in the white people shit, the Fab 40s. That brought me out. Let me run up in y'all, make some noise in y'all shit. But it was a year later, because that one was about the verdict. Not the verdict, but the they're not gonna charge them, which we already knew. So I'm like, yo, why are we letting them pull our strings and shit? You know what I mean? So that march specifically, I wasn't for, but my homeboy organized it, which is a brother I love dearly. He's like, hey, Keon, you gonna come out? And I was like, I wasn't, but you called me, I'm there, right? So even with that, I wasn't frontlining. This was youth led. I was there as a big bro, as an elder, whatever, kind of keep my eye on the situation. For the most part of the march, I was way in the back. At the point when it was time for us to leave, when we got arrested, I was actually trying to get the people to go home. Like, my nigga, we did this shit. My idea was, okay, I actually kind of like this shit, but what we need to do is be a nuisance. Let's do it. Shut it down. Disrupt their shit. They don't know we're going to pop. Like how they having pop-ups now? Nigga, let's pop up all over the fucking city. And so that was my vision. So when it's time to go, it's time to go. We done. Lingered a little bit too long. Next thing you know, we were actually leaving. As a group, we were making our exit. It was already said. We told them we leaving. It was a lady who lived 4 blocks down. She said, you know what? All y'all my guests, y'all come to my house. You know what I mean? So that was our route. As we were leaving, these motherfuckers came out of trees. They rappelled from helicopters. Niggas came out of sewers. Came from under the overpass. Blocked us in the pitch black and locked us up. But we was actually leaving, which was... So, you know, with the idea of marching and shit, you know, we done here, y'all, let's go. That's why I said, we done. Spoke to the lady, she said, I live this way. I done whispered in enough people's ear till we was leaving. And they locked us up. So I say all that to say the idea of marching, sometime with it because there's marching and there's protesting. Nigga, we shall overcome. No, nigga, we out here. We out here protesting and kind of, we ain't burning shit down, but stop pushing the people because you don't know.
There you go. Resistant.
I mean? And when that do happen, I promise God, we ain't gonna be ready for what they got, no way. So we need to be strategic in our shit because we not ready.
We're not. Ultimately, we're not.
Ultimately, we're not ready.
We're not ready. All right, so something else I want to touch on. So speaking about protesting and just how all that works, when I look at Black society right now, it's a lot of in-house division. I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm a lot of division. I'm Democrat, I'm Republican. Everybody's off on their own. What do you think, as a community, how important do you think creating some type of code is? Us, regardless of how you look, this is the code you follow. How important and how impactful do you think something like that would be?
It's imperative. I think if we had that amongst ourselves, it would change the scope of our direction and the trajectory of our direction. I think we'll go a lot farther, a lot faster. You know what I mean? Because I think code, it roots out some of the bullshit. You know what I mean? It squares down, right? It's narrow. And I think that's everything that operates and live have laws and code. And if we just living willy-nilly, we don't have no law, no code, all of our energy is being dissipated in, you know what I mean? But with the code, it brings everything in an alignment. You know who's for it, who's what's what. In code, it allows us to identify amongst ourselves who's forward, who's backward, who we need to keep our eye on. You know what I mean? It's imperative to our shit, ultimately to our survival. You know what I mean? It's very important. I got some visions and ideas myself. You know what I mean? Of bringing our own city to code that could be a model for the nation. And I think that even the way Sacramento was built in relationship, as big as it is, it's small. I was like a big ass small town because everybody know everybody connected.
Yeah.
So I think if the right factors got together and got on code, you know what I mean, as men, women, elders, and shit like that, I think we could change a lot of shit. But it's very important. It's the rules, it's the laws, it's governing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's policies that we need to have amongst ourselves, bro. It'll clean up all. Trust me, we see a lot clearer if we had code.
Yeah, and it looks like just all organizations that have some sort of code, they operate better. Like even looking at I was just thinking, looking at the Crips and the Bloods, when they first, it seems like when they first was starting off, there was a code that they followed, and things seemed to work better for them. Once it's every man for himself, nobody listening to nobody, to me it almost becomes useless when the energy those brothers display is extremely useful. That's like a warrior class that can be used in this battle.
1000%.
And I'm not a black on black crime guy, meaning that tagline that's used is utter bullshit. I get that. But if I'm just in a room with my brothers, I'm gonna say, hey, we gotta stop killing each other, on some real shit, because I know it's
in-house talk.
That's in-house talk. I wouldn't. You don't get on a platform and preach it to your people and say y'all need to stop. See, Bill Cosby didn't have that right. He didn't understand. It was just tone and delivery, player. You spitting some game, but how you saying it? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So next and final question here. We talked about the code, and we understand how important it is for us as black folks to be on code. That, to me, can do a lot with just getting us where we need to be. But what else would you say? Just looking at black Americans, melanated Americans, Aboriginal people, whatever, because we on this thing right now with the ADOS.
Yeah.
And foundational black, all this different shit. I think, just to put it out there, of course we should get some type of reparations, some money for what was done to us. How you issue it, when you issue it, I mean that's all conversations that need to be had. Well, firstly, before I ask the last, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the reparations conversation?
The pay. I said, man, the handover is not a handout. The handover is not a handout. Nigga, pay the fuck up. You know what I mean? Liberty, Lady Liberty, Justice, all you motherfuckers, all you bitches. Turn over. Yeah, man. When you look at history and how we've been, and they pay reparations. I'm understanding to everybody else and all that shit. It's an shit. They pay reparations to the slave owners where they have to free us. You know what I mean? They got reparations. When you look at the economic start that all these nations has gotten over us, right? Money is a tool to the end. I mean, is a means to the ends. You know what I mean? Ends to the means, whatever. We need that. We need that. It'll fix it. I'm not saying it's going. Again, without code though. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
A lot of Jordans.
Oh man, a lot of guns, a lot of everything. A lot of everything. A lot of liquor, a lot of shit going back. You know what I mean? Because it's money management and shit. But I mean, start talking about it now. Fuck talking about it now. Let's start working towards figuring out how we gonna get this to the people. What we gotta put in place before amongst ourselves before those things come. That's fine and dandy. That's on us. But it's a real thing. It needs to be get past the point of discussion because it really ain't nothing to discuss other than the dynamics of.
That's why I'm a little taken back by black people, politicians, entertainment people, popular black people who are out in the open speaking, who find a way to say we shouldn't give reparations for these different little fragments of reasons. It's like, what the fuck y'all talking about?
That's bullshit. And half of them that saying that shit already, their pockets already padded. They already live in a certain way. Quote, whether they got their portion, they package in reparations, or they quote unquote earned it, worked for it, came up on it, whatever the case may be. A lot of people that have that opinion, you know what I mean, they don't got no financial issues right now, so they can be like, reparations, I'm good. Nah, pay the fuck up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Those are not our spokespeople. They can't be our spokespeople.
Yes, and that happens a lot where I'll see somebody on TV and the person who introduces him as the leader of something, and I'm like, damn, I don't know that nigga. He ain't never led me nowhere.
Hey, I heard you twice.
Yeah, shit.
I heard you twice, and I avoid that shit like leader and all that shit. I think the people unified.
The code should be the leader.
That's the lead.
That's what we should follow. All right. So last question. The question I was going to ask you is the final thing. We know about the code. Anything else you think that black people need to start doing immediately? Now we know we need money. We know we need resources and shit like that. But what do you think we can start doing immediately? Like you a black man who don't got no money. You ain't got a car. God damn it. What can you start doing immediately to make a difference in your community that'll ultimately better it for everybody else?
It leads me back to my simplistic. It starts with self. Right, and I don't know what route that'll take you, or you. But it starts with inventory of self. How can you be a better individual? So that's why we need people to be selfish at, right? Not selfish in the other way, but how can I be a better individual? Be selfish in that shit. Because everything starts with self. Repeat the question again.
What do you think black people need to do? Because we've spoken a lot about the resources we need being on code, but for a black man who don't have no money, who don't really have much, average dude working a job, what can he do tomorrow to start helping the cause? Because he may feel like, ain't nothing I can do. I ain't got no money. I'm not a marcher or whatever.
Got you. Okay, so again, all right, so this is what I was going with, right? So start with yourself, man, right? And then who's next to you, right? How do you love? How do you love? Can we start loving each other better? I say it's the main ingredient, you know what I mean? Because that would lead to your other doors and opportunities and ideas, man. Just it starts with yourself and that change. Want to be a better person in any way. And then the person next to you, how do you love on your brothers and sisters? How do you love on your brothers and sisters? You know what I mean? And that's something anybody can do that don't take no money, don't take no nothing. You know what I mean? Just, it starts with that. And I think once you begin the idea of self-love, if you love yourself, you love that which is next to you. And that change, it'd be a shift in the whole paradigm and energy in itself. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised what comes out. And I know that's a broad answer, but I think it's basically how we love each other.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
In its most basic form, in its most basic principles, how do we love one another?
Got it. I completely agree with you, brother. Well, that's been the show for today. Man, really, really, really good conversation, Keon. I appreciate you stopping by, bro. I know you had something to do. I know we all just so busy. So taking time out of your day to come fuck with me and have this conversation with me. And this is impactful, bro. This is the reason why I do this, because I think our people we're so inundated with these negative images and things and misinformation. You know what I'm saying? So I think bringing truth to power, besides the code and all the other shit we was talking about, bringing truth to power has to be everybody's model. We all gotta see like that. You know, I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you rocking with me today, bro. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. You can check out the podcast at melanatedfathers.com. You can check out the podcast on SoundCloud. I'm on SoundCloud as well. You can check out the podcast on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Melanated Fathers TV. Subscribe today if you haven't. So once the podcast is up, you'll be able to go to all 3 of those platforms to check it out. Continue to support what I'm doing, man. You can check us out on Instagram at Melanated Fathers 100 on Instagram. On Twitter is Melanin 100. Facebook is just Melanated Fathers of America. Continue to check in with us, see all the stuff that we're doing. More events to come in the future, but until then, I'm going to continue to use my platform to have these kind of impactful conversations. So whoever it is that need to hear this, that need to hear some of what we're talking about, can receive the information, man. So thank y'all for joining in. We out.